Hey guys, welcome on into my NHL Atlantic Division preview. My name's Terry Edelman. You can follow me over on X at TEPicks, and I'm ready to look at each NHL team in the Atlantic Division, taking a look at their forward depth, defensive depth, goaltending depth, team future bets, if there are any that I like for that team. And then at the end of the video, I'll be giving my rankings for the division from the team I think is the worst team heading into the season to the team I think is the best in the division heading into the season. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you guys are new to the channel. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And with that, we'll jump right into it here and start with the very first team. We'll be going alphabetical order. So I'll be starting with the Boston Bruins here. And new additions to the team, obviously guys that are in different color jerseys are new additions. So it'll be easy to tell here when we look at each team how much change is happening with the overall roster. Boston here, adding some guys in the forward group. Victor Arvidsson coming in from the Edmonton Oilers, Tanner Jeannot from the LA Kings, Mike Eyssimont from the Seattle Kraken, and Sean Kuraly from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So Boston making some additions here, obviously for their bottom line, for their bottom six, and then Victor Arvidsson there for the second line, and how the team is looking as of right now. Now, I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon. Things are going to change. It is in the preseason. Lineups are going to change. The overall lines might change, but this is the forward depth for the Boston Bruins. And Morgan Geekie, Elias Lindholm, and David Pastrnak, I like that first line. I think it's a very good top line for the Boston Bruins. That is where the majority of their offense is going to come from this season. Because if you look at the second line there, Pavel Zacha has definitely been a contributor that can contribute on the offense. Casey Middlestat now coming up here to the second line. That will be some pressure put on his shoulders here. Victor Arvidsson coming in. Can he stay healthy for a full season? How is he going to fit here in the Boston Bruins offense? And then you look at the bottom two lines, and I just don't know how much offense you're really going to get from the bottom six for the Boston Bruins, especially if you look at other teams in the division that have stronger bottom sixes. I do think overall scoring is going to be an issue for this Boston Bruins forward group. I think they're going to get offense from the top line, but looking at this forward group, if Boston wants to have any hope at making the playoffs at all, David Pastrnak has to play a full season. You cannot have Pastrnak miss any time, because if you take him out of this lineup, it's a really rough forward group compared to all the other teams in this division. Taking a look at the defensive group for the Boston Bruins, Mason Lohrei was a great surprise for the Bruins last year. He definitely deserves to be on that top D pair with Charlie McAvoy. Then you've got Nikita Zadorov and Henry Jokiharju as the second pair, Hampus Lindholm and Andrew Peeke as the third pair, Jordan Harris as kind of an extra defenseman here. And I don't love the defense here for Boston, but I do think it's better than the forward group overall. I think if it stays healthy, I think the defense will do their job for the Bruins. I really do like that top pair. Other guys in the bottom two pairs, maybe not a Stanley Cup defense, but to be fair, I don't think anybody is looking at the Boston Bruins this year as a Stanley Cup contender. So looking at the goaltending, Jeremy Swayman, I think he's going to have a better season this year. I think he's going to be more like the goalie that he's been in previous years. I think he bounces back a bit. Jonas Korpisalo, it's tough to kind of guess what you're going to get from him. Sometimes he can be a capable backup. Other times not. So we'll see how it works here for the Bruins. But again, if the Bruins are trying to make some kind of playoff push. They're going to need Swayman to be a Vezina type contender, goaltender, and he'll have to play a large majority of the starts for the Boston Bruins. So, looking at future bets that I'm considering for this Boston Bruins team. Number one, under 80.5 points, minus 115. I guess I should mention future bets here. I looked at FanDuel, I looked at DraftKings. So those are the two books that I looked at when it comes to future odds. So if you are looking at one of these bets, FanDuel and DraftKings are the two books I looked at. You might be able to find better odds elsewhere. That's totally fine. And I want to be upfront and honest. I have not bet any futures. I'm just going to talk to you guys about the ones that I like, the ones that I'm considering, and then I will be placing my futures closer to the season. But under 80.5 points for the Boston Bruins, 76 points for the Bruins last year, and now their total here is at 80.5. They're in a tough division. The Boston Bruins are in a tough division, and a lot of these teams in the Atlantic have a lot of young players and young players that will take that next step and improve for these teams. So looking at the additions for the Bruins, looking at what they did last year, I think under 80.5 points is a good number here for the Bruins. Is kind of the negative future for Bruins fans. But the positive one is Morgan Geekie, 30-plus goals at plus 400 here. He had 33 goals last year, 77 games played. Really great season for Geekie. He was a bright spot for the Bruins last year as well. And I don't know if he necessarily goes near 40 or has a huge season, but 33 goals last year, I don't think it was a mistake. I think if he's on that top line consistently with Lindholm and with Pastrnak, I think it's a fair shot for him to score 30 goals plus 400. That's the reason why I'm really considering this. He scored 33 last year. Yes, I think the Bruins are going to take a step back, but I think it's not their offense from that top line. I think it's getting offense from throughout the lineup that's going to be the issue. So I do think Morgan Geekie is going to score his fair share of goals, 30-plus goals plus 400. I think that's pretty good odds here for Geekie. A bet I'm considering for the Boston Bruins. Next up, we're talking about the Buffalo Sabres here, taking a look at their forward depth. The top line, Zach Benson, Josh Norris, and Tage Thompson. Pretty surprising line, of course. As I said earlier, a lot of these lines are going to look different on opening night. This is just how things are looking as of now in the first few days, games of the preseason. Jason Zucker, Ryan McLeod, Alex Tuck, that second line. Obviously, you have Alex Tuck, Jason Zucker, more veteran type guys. Ryan McLeod had a great season last year. He was a player that I backed to win point props for the Buffalo Sabres. He was a player that did make me money last year. Then you've got that third line with Jack Quinn, Yuri Kulik, and Josh Doan. I love Josh Doan. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's going to be a really good player in this league. And when you look at the J.J. Peterka trade, obviously Josh Doan, one of the guys that Buffalo got back. And I think it was a good trade, maybe long-term for the Sabres. I don't know if it necessarily makes them better this year, but Josh Doan is a very good player. And I think he's going to fit well in this Sabres forward group. Then you got Beck Malmsteen, Payne Krebs, and Justin Danforth as that fourth line with some extra guys as well. I think Jordan Greenway would fit well on the fourth line as well at times. Those other guys maybe more for the third line if there's injuries, which there's always injuries throughout the season. So overall, I like the three lines. You've got some Zach Benson, a guy in that top line, Josh Norris. Obviously, we know Tage Thompson, what he's going to do. So That top line, I don't know if it's necessarily going to stay like that. Maybe they move guys around, but there's lots of options here in potential lines for the Buffalo Sabres. Taking a look at the defensive group for the Sabres, Bowen Byram, obviously he was a name in a lot of trade rumors. Didn't end up getting traded, ended up getting re-signed, and looking like he'll start the season, or at least in the preseason so far, been playing with Rasmus Dahlin. So obviously a great spot there on that top D pair. And then the second one, Owen Power and Michael Kesselring, another guy that the Sabres got back in that Peterka trade. Owen Power, obviously a first overall pick. I think he's one of those young guys that's going to take that step forward that he's done in his first 2 years. Michael Kesselring, I think, is a good partner for him to play with, and I actually really like that D pair, and I do like the addition of Kesselring to the Sabres defense. Matthias Samuelsson and Connor Timmins as the third pair, extras, and Zach Jones, Jacob Bryson. And I like this defense from an offensive perspective. I think the Sabres D guys, especially Dahlin, obviously he's been a offensive player, but he's improved his defense as well. Owen Power, obviously an offensive guy as well. If he can improve his defense a little bit with Bowen Byram as well, I think the Sabres defense has potential to have success here this season, offensively and defensively, for the Buffalo Sabres. Now we get to the issue for the Buffalo Sabres, in my opinion, which is goaltending depth. Now, you might look here and say, Terry, there's 4 goalies here. The Sabres have a ton of goalie depth. And yes, okay, they've got a ton of goalies here, but that's kind of the issue. Obviously, 4 goaltenders right now. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, the starter, obviously to start the season. He's dealing, a lot of players are dealing with some injuries. On the screen, if they're on injured reserve, then you'll obviously see a little med kit. We'll get to that later. But players expected to play for opening night, opening week. The players that aren't on injured reserve don't have any notification. So lots of guys dealing with things, but expected to be fine to start the season. Then there's 3 goalies, Alex Lyon and Devin Levi, who's obviously been with the organization a couple seasons. And then late on in the offseason, the Sabres go and sign Alexander Georgiev, which was a head scratcher for me, and why they would go and do that. Because I think Alex Lyon is a capable backup. Obviously, you got Devin Levi, a young goaltender that had a ton of potential. Haven't really seen it in the NHL so far. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe the Sabres aren't convinced that Levi can be a backup. And maybe that's why they expect him to be in the AHL. So they add Georgiev to kind of compete with Lyon for the backup position. That's interesting, I guess. But I look at this goaltending situation and I see a mess. I see a mess. I think Alex Lyon is the guy to go to. If you're going to look at who should be the starting goaltender, who should be the backup, I think you go with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen as the starting goaltender, and then you go with Alex Lyon as the backup. But obviously we'll have to see how this works out. 4 goaltenders, different things can happen. The Georgiev signing doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't think he improves this goaltending group. I don't think he improves it. So that's my thoughts there. Future bets for the Buffalo Sabres. Under 84.5 points, minus 110. The Buffalo Sabres have gone under 84.5 points in 12 of their last 13 seasons. Yeah, 12 of their last 13 seasons. They did have one year where they got, I think, 92 or in the early 90s. Still missed the playoffs, but were able to go over their point total in that season. And how I look at it, no, I don't think the Sabres are going to get worse, but I don't know if they're going to improve enough where they're in a very tough division, and there's a lot of good teams in this division. I just don't see Buffalo really improving. Obviously, the Peterka trade, as I said, that might help them maybe long term, but I don't know. I don't think in short term the Buffalo Sabres really got better this year. And for a team that has not made the playoffs in what is going on 14, 15 years, you needed to improve this team. Yes, you have a lot of young players, and you've been waiting for those young players to take the next step, and some of them have, but it has not worked. The Sabres have not gotten to the playoffs, and that has to be when I did my off-season preview shows, that was the number one thing for Buffalo as my off-season task, was to figure out a way to improve this team to get to the playoffs. And I don't think they've done it. I think they're minus 200 to miss the playoffs. There's no value there. I think under 84.5 points, if you're looking at a future for the Buffalo Sabres. Player prop, Tage Thompson, 70-plus points, minus 120. Best player for the Buffalo Sabres here. And I think if you're looking at anything, 72 points last year in 76 games played, 56 points the year before in 71 games played. But the year prior, 22-23, 78 games played, 47 goals, 47 assists for 94 points. So 2 of the last 3 seasons, he scored more than 44 goals. I think he can get into the late 30s, early 40s again. I think he can get 70-plus points. Minus 120 are the odds there. To be honest, I don't know if I want to lay minus 120 on a player future for the Buffalo Sabres. So I don't know if it's one that's going to make my card, but for show purposes, if for people looking at future bets, I know there's some Buffalo Sabres fans that watch the channel. I think Tage Thompson is going to have another good year. So I would look at his props here throughout the season and for the future. Next up, we have the Detroit Red Wings here. And as you can see, a lot of red on the screen. The Detroit Red Wings going back to a lot of the same guys as previous. Top line, Elmer Soderblom, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond. Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, incredibly dependable players throughout the last few seasons for quite a few seasons now, especially in Larkin's case. Elmer Soderblom, a young player that Detroit will be looking, obviously having him projected to be here on the top line would be a great opportunity for him, playing with Lucas Raymond and Dylan Larkin. The second line, Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane obviously have chemistry together. But I'm most excited about the guy in the middle, Marco Kasper. Really good season last year for the Buffalo. He didn't play for. Sorry, Detroit fans, for the Detroit Red Wings. Great season last year, and he's one of my players to watch. So, obviously, as we go through, I'll be mentioning players that I'm keeping my eye on as we start the season from a player prop perspective, overall play perspective. Marco Kasper, I think there might be some value on his point props to start the season. I think he's in a great spot with DeBrincat and Kane. So Marco Kasper is one of my players to watch to start this year. Andrew Kopp, JT Compher, Mason Appleton there on the third line. James Van Riemsdyk, Michael Rasmussen, and Jonathan Berggren on the fourth line. How much offense is Detroit going to get from those bottom two lines? I'm not sure. James Van Riemsdyk, more of a third-line player, in my opinion, than a fourth-line guy. But there's no really room for him there on that third line. And this is just how it's projected to be. So I think that could provide some offense there on the bottom line for the Detroit Red Wings. But most of the offense is going to come from those top two lines. I think that's fair to say. I think we'll see movement here in the forward lines. But overall, I think it's a pretty decent forward group for the Red Wings. Taking a look at the defense, Ben Chiarot and Mort Seider, Simon Edvinsson, Albert Johansson, Eric Gustafsson, and Travis Hamonic here in this defense. And it's interesting. You've got 3 young guys and 3 older guys. So a good mix of older and younger here for Detroit. Jacob Bernard-Docker was a really interesting addition for the Detroit Red Wings. I'd like to see him get some ice time here. Probably end up being on that third pair. Rotate. I think the Red Wings will rotate with this defense. And defensively, there might be some issues here with this defense. There might be some good offense. We might see some offense from some of these guys. But I have questions defensively here for the Detroit Red Wings. But when you've got 3 young guys, Mort Seider, not as young, but you're looking at those guys to take the next step forward. We'll have to see. There's questions with this defense. I think it could be good. I think it could be pretty rough as well. So we'll have to see exactly how that works out. Looking at goaltending depth for the Detroit Red Wings. And when you look at the additions that Detroit made this offseason, I think John Gibson was one of the bigger additions here. Obviously, he's had some good seasons in the past. He is a goaltender that unfortunately has dealt with injury bug throughout his career. But finally, getting a new start after playing his whole entire career with the Anaheim Ducks. Now getting an opportunity here with Detroit. Last season, 11-11-2 with a 2.73 goals against average. Yes, I almost said ERA, but that's with baseball. Previous 3 seasons over 3 goals against average. So in his best seasons earlier on, 2.07, 2.22, 2.43, 2.73 last year, not that bad. So if John Gibson can be healthy and can play like he did last year, I think we could see an improved goaltending from the Detroit Red Wings, and I think they could be an improved team. Cam Talbot, getting older, obviously. I would like to see the young gun and Sebastian Cossa get some time here for the Red Wings. Obviously, Gibson and Talbot both have injury history, so we'll see if Sebastian Cossa does get a chance at some point. But overall, still questions with the goaltending, but I think it could be improved. This season. 83.5 points for the Detroit Red Wings. I'm going over. Obviously, they had 86 last year and 91 the season before. So kind of a lower number. I know they're in a tough division, but they are a team that I think is on the rise. Don't know if they get to the playoffs. But I think 83.5. I think they can hit that point total. Lucas Raymond, 80 plus points, plus 130. He had 80 points last year, and now his point totals at 80 once again. I do think this Red Wings team is going to improve. Now, obviously, they're in a very tough division with some very good teams. So I don't know necessarily they're going to jump into the top 3, but I think they have a good offense. So I think 80-plus points for Lucas Raymond. If you're looking at a player prop for the Detroit Red Wings, I couldn't find anything for Marco Kasper. So you could look maybe at Kane or DeBrincat as well. But Raymond on the top line, I think 80-plus points, plus 130. I think there's some value there looking at Lucas Raymond. Next up, we have the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions, Florida Panthers. Won the Stanley Cup back-to-back years, and now they're trying to pull off the three-peat this year. But we'll start with some injuries. Matthew Tkachuk having surgery. He will be out for an extended period of time. Thomas Nosek also starting the year injured. But if you look at what Florida has in their offensive group, it's still stacked. Even without Matthew Tkachuk, it's still a very good offensive forward group. So Carter Verhaeghe, Alexander Barkov, and Sam Reinhart obviously have chemistry. They played a lot together throughout the years. So I think that's a very good first line, dependable. Sam Reinhart, anytime goal, definitely a bet that I've bet on quite a lot. Not so much last year as the year before, a bit more, but he went on those streaks, and you guys know I'm a streaks better. People, the followers on my channel, cashed in Sam Reinhart a lot. So great chemistry with him and Barkov, of course. Makes sense for them to be together. Jesper Boquist and Sam Bennett, who there was questions, would he go somewhere else? Would he resign? Well, he resigned. Scheduled here to play with Jesper Boquist and Maki Samoskevich, who is under the radar younger player who played very well last year when he did play, now potentially getting opportunity here in the second line. He is my player to watch for the Florida Panthers, is Maki Samoskevich. I'll be keeping an eye out for his props. Does he stay on the second line? Does he move around? We'll have to see. He was in the fourth line earlier, switch places with Rodriguez. So obviously, it's going to be a game-by-game basis. I'm not betting his future because there is no future bets for Maki Samoskevich, unfortunately, but he is a player I'm going to be keeping my eye on. Then you've got that third line. Eetu Luostarinen, who could definitely be a second-line player on other teams. Anton Lundell. I don't want to say it's a travesty that he's on the third line, but he's a young, definitely going to be a future second-line player, maybe even a top-line player in this league. We saw him play very well last season. I expect another big year from him again. And Brad Marchand. So they re-signed Sam Bennett. They re-signed Brad Marchand as well. So we'll be getting to see him with a full season here with the Florida Panthers. Then you look at that fourth line, obviously Evan Rodriguez, who's been a dependable player for the Florida Panthers last year. Luke Cunnin coming in here from Columbus, AJ Greer as well. And then you've got some other guys there, and Nolan Foote and Jonah Kadovich. So forward depth, no Tkachuk, no problem, I think, for this Florida Panthers team. It's still a stacked forward group compared to some of the other forward groups you have in this division. So very high there on the Florida offense. Florida defense, Gustav Forsling, very dependable defensive guy. Aaron Ekblad, again, we talked about Sam Bennett resigning. We talked about Brad Marchand resigning. Well, Aaron Ekblad resigned as well. So the Panthers keeping their 3 UFAs that a lot of teams were really hoping to get their hands on, all 3 re-sign in Florida. Nico Mikkola, Seth Jones, a very good second pair. Dmitry Kulov and Jeff Petrie as the third pair, and Tobias Bornfoot, Uvis Spalasinis as extra guys. So overall, really good forward group, really good defensive group for the Florida Panthers. When it comes to goaltending, Sergei Bobrovsky, remains starter for the Florida Panthers, trying to win his third cup in a row. And then coming in here to be the backup is Danil Tarasov from the Columbus Blue Jackets. So obviously you've got the older veteran here in Bobrovsky. You've got the younger guy in Tarasov. Do the Panthers see him as their goalie of the future? Or are they just kind of taking a chance on him this year? Definitely something to keep an eye on. But I think he's going to have a much better year this year with Florida than he did with Columbus. Defensively, the Panthers just a better team. So I think you've got two capable goaltenders here. We just talked about the forward group, how much I like that, the defense group, how much I like that. So when I look at this Florida Panthers team and I look at future bets, win Stanley Cup plus 650. I think they do it. I think they three-peat. I think Matthew Tkachuk comes back healthy later on in the season and is just makes this team even more stacked. And win Atlantic Division plus 175, probably not going to pull the trigger on that one, but it's something I do think the Panthers win the division. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, they don't have to, and they don't. They don't have to win the division. This Panthers team is a playoff team, and that's when they really show their best hockey has been in the playoffs. But even having said that, I think they're the best team in the Atlantic Division. So if you're looking at a team to win the division, I think plus 175 is a decent price. Plus 650 to win the Stanley Cup, obviously much better. They have the experience, and they just have the roster. They didn't lose a bunch of pieces in the offseason like other teams, like Tampa Bay, when they won the Cup. They've lost players year after year after year. But this Panthers team stayed pretty much together. So I think we see another really good season from the Florida Panthers. No, I don't think they win. I don't think they win the President's Trophy, but I do think they win the Atlantic Division, and I think they go on to win the Stanley Cup for the third consecutive year. And we will continue to hear people complain about the tax situation, and I'm not even going to get into. I shouldn't have even mentioned. No, I'm kidding. But there are people that complain, and I can understand why. The Panthers have another stacked team, and that's the situation at hand. So we'll see if they can win their third cup in a row. Next up, we've got the Montreal Canadiens here. And when you look at it, a lot of the same players from last year. A couple additions there on the left side, on the bottom six. But when you look at the forward group, it's pretty similar to what we saw last year. Cole Caulfield, otherwise known as Goal Caulfield, incredible season from him last year. His anytime goal was something that I bet a lot on this channel. Nick Suzuki assist was something I bet a lot, and Slafkovsky point was something I bet a lot. Spoiler alert, heading into the season, I'm looking at Caulfield anytime goal, Suzuki assist, Slafkovsky point. I don't really think, and we saw it in the preseason game the other night. Cole Caulfield scored from Suzuki assist and Hudson assist. I think you're going to see that a lot. Get used to that for this Montreal Canadiens team. The second line, Patrick Laine, Kirby Dach, and Ivan Demidov. That is the guy that a lot of Habs fans are really excited to see the first full season from Demidov. And I understand why. He's a very talented player and really is going to help that second line bring a ton of offense here on that second line. Playing with a guy like Patrick Laine as well. Good combination. Kirby Dach, obviously, Habs fans hoping to have a good, healthy season from him here this year. The third line, Alex Newhook, obviously from last year. Brendan Gallagher, I think, is probably the longest tenured Hab. But don't quote me on that. But obviously, he's been with the Habs a very long time. And then bringing in Zach Bolduc, I think, is a great trade that the Habs pulled off here in the off season. Bear with me while I bring up Bolduc's numbers from last year. 36 points in 72 games played, 19 goals, 17 assists. He was a player I bet on at times. He had a stretch where he was really hot. I think he's a young guy that has potential. So, again, you've got that young depth forward here for that third line that I think is going to bring some offense to that third line. Joe Veleno, coming over from Chicago, of course, a former first overall pick. I don't want to say he's never lived up to being a first overall pick, but hasn't really put up first overall pick numbers. That's why he's projected to be on the fourth line, but a good fourth line player here. And the other two, Jake Evans, Josh Anderson. Jake Evans, a very good penalty killer and a anytime goal prop player that we bet last year. He was on a goal streak. I remember cashing plus 400, really high prices with him, plus 300 goal scoring props. So if he starts to get hot during the season, don't you worry. He'll be a player I'll be mentioning on my NHL show, Picks on Net. Josh Anderson from my hometown, Burlington, Ontario. I could see him being a third line guy on other teams. Brings that experience there in that fourth line. And I like this forward group. Love the top line. I really like the second line. The third line is going to be sneaky good, and I think the fourth line is going to be very dependable. So, a very good forward group for this Montreal Canadiens team. Taking a look at the defense, Mike Matheson returning as a top line D pair, but now he's got some company in Noah Dobson, the big addition for the Montreal Canadiens here in the offseason. He's had some defensive questions at times, but a very good offensive player. So that's really going to increase the offense from the back end for the Montreal Canadiens. And then when you're talking about offense, you got to look at Lane Hutson. What an absolutely fantastic season he had last year. 66 points in 82 games played, and then 5 points in 5 playoff games. We're just scratching the surface with this kid. And when I did the Montreal season preview show last year, they were really, I think his points total was, can't remember exactly what it was, but I was looking at it thinking that's pretty high for a player who's never played an NHL game, but it was high for a reason. So I think he has another strong season this year. And just you've got that offense here with his defense. Arbor Yakaj, I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm sorry, Habs fans. And sorry, Arbor. Alexandre Carrier as well on that bottom D pair. Jaden Struble and then David Reinbacher as well. So the Habs have some guys knocking at the door, trying to get into this defensive group. And I think it's going to be a good defensive group. I think offensively we're going to see a lot of points, especially from Dobson and Hudson. I think overall the defense is going to be pretty good for the Habs this season. Taking a look at the goaltenders. Samuel Montembeault, starting goaltender. And I've seen Kaapo Kähkönen kind of listed as the backup. I wonder if Jakub Dobeš gives him a fight for that. Obviously, Dobeš, really great start to his NHL career. Kind of came back down to earth afterwards, but pretty decent season from him. I think he's going to be a capable backup here for the Habs. I would rather see him get more of an opportunity than Kaapo Kähkönen. I know, how could I say that? Kaapo Kähkönen, a former Wild player, but I think he'll do fine if he's the backup as well. I I think goaltending could be a question mark for Montreal, maybe, but really goaltending is a question mark for a lot of teams because goalies can be really good one year and then kind of fall off the map the next year and then be good again the next year. It's kind of a roller coaster unless you're one of the top tier goaltenders. But I think this goaltending group with the defense and with the forwards that they're going to be playing behind, I think are going to do pretty well. And I think Montreal is going to do pretty well. Habs fans, you guys have a bright future. And I think we're going to see it continue. We saw it last year. I think that's just the glimpse of the future for the Habs here. Over 90.5 points. The Habs had 91 points last year. Total 90.5 again. And I see this team has improved. They've got young players throughout the lineup that I think are going to take that next step. We'll get to Demidov, who you see here on the screen. In my opinion, will be one of those players. Lane Hudson, I also think we're just scratching the surface with him. You add Noah Dobson. You got other young guys, Slavkovsky, the Habs are hoping will take that next step as well. So you've got you've got some veterans here on this team, but you've got young players who I think are going to improve this year from last year. So I think this Habs team is going to be better than last year. So 90.5 points. I would take the over and plus 105 to make the playoffs. The Habs made the playoffs last year. I think they're a playoff team once again. So I like that at plus 105. Probably something I'm going to be pulling the trigger on. Now, of course, I mentioned with the future bets that I have not bet any futures yet. All the futures you see on the screen are just ones I'm considering. I will say, though, I will be betting some of these futures. Haven't decided which I'm going to be pulling the trigger on yet, but going to be pulling the trigger on some Habs futures because, as you can tell from this section, I am high on this Habs team this year. Demidov to win the Calder plus 190. He is the projected winner heading into the year, and I can understand why. I think he's going to have a fantastic season. There might be a couple other guys in the Western Conference that maybe have a chance that we'll talk about, but he's the favorite. And I know you might look at it and think, well, if he's the favorite at plus 190, well, why are you mentioning him? And why aren't you looking for guys with value? And we'll get to guys with value later on, as I said, when we get to the West. But looking at it, heading into the season, I think Demidov wins the Calder Trophy. That's how I look at it. I think he is going to have the best record. Now, people are projecting that he runs away with it. I'm not sure about that, but I think he wins it. So because I think he wins it, I'm getting plus 190, almost plus 200. I think it's a good bet. 60 plus points. He's plus 100 to get 60 plus points. Obviously, 2 points in 2 games played last year, 2 points in 5 game playoff games. Haven't seen a full season from him, so we don't really know. But obviously, I think he's going to win the Calder Trophy. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. So probably reaching that 60-point range. So I think plus money for 60-plus points is a good look. Cole Caulfield. No, I didn't make an error there. I did it on purpose. Cole Caulfield, as he's known for good reason, 40-plus goals. He had 37 goals last year. If we look at the last 4 seasons for Cole Caulfield, 23, 26, 28, and then 37 last year. You can look at that and think, okay, well, maybe last year was just a really good year. Maybe he's going to go back to that 28 range. I don't think so. This Habs team has been kind of rough in his first few years, but they're not going to be rough anymore. As you can tell, I think they're going to have a very good season, and I think Cole Caulfield is a big reason why I'm going to be betting his anytime goal prop a lot. Looking at the beginning of the season, I expect him to go on hot streaks, and I think he can get to 40, plus 490 for Cole Caulfield to score 40 goals. I think that's a good look. And then finally, Lane Hudson, 70-plus points, plus 240. Hudson last year, 66 points in 82 games played. As I said, 5 points in 5 playoff games. 4 more points, plus 240. I think he does it. I think it's a very good value here with Lane Hudson. Yes, I know moving to the second D pair, obviously with Noah Dobson now being on the team, but I don't think we're going to see a drastic fall in Hudson's points. I think he rack ups the points. So 70 plus, 66 last year. I think he's only in his first season. I think he's only going to get better. Plus 240, I think, is great value for Lane Hudson. Go Habs, go. That's how I'll finish this segment. Moving on along to the next team is the Ottawa Senators here. News today, Drake Batherson will miss the next 2 weeks approximately. So he's on IR now. So that's unfortunate for the Ottawa Senators here heading into the season. Ridley Gregg, Tim Stützle, Fabian Zetterlund projected to be that top line. Tim Stützle, obviously very dependable. He's a top line center. No issues there. Ridley Gregg, Fabian Zetterlund, the Senators are going to hope to get good seasons from those two guys. Then the second line there, Brady Tkachuk, Captain Brady Tkachuk, Claude Giroux, who returned to the Ottawa Senators, and Shane Pinto. I like that second line. And now I don't have players to watch in every team, but I seem to like second line players. And that's the case with Shane Pinto. I think he has a really good season. If he is playing with Tkachuk and Giroux, I think he's going to rack up the points. And I think there is going to be some value on his props heading into the season. David Perron, Dylan Cousins, and Michael Amadio. Dylan Cousins, when he first went from Buffalo to Ottawa, we cashed on his props. He was a prop machine, a point machine after the trade. I'd like to see him get some opportunities in the top 6 as well. Maybe he switches with Pinto. That'll be something to see. Obviously, if you have Batherson in that spot instead of Amadio, it's a more of a stronger offensive third line. Definitely think Amadio more of a fourth line guy. So losing Batherson hurts. Maybe he's ready for one of the first few games to start the season. That's what the Senators obviously will hope, but we'll have to see what happens there. Nick Cousins, Lars Eller, and Arthur Kaliev as that fourth line for the Ottawa Senators. Overall, I think it's a good forward group. Like some other forward groups that we've already talked about, I think they have depth throughout this lineup. Obviously, you want to have Batherson, a good offensive player, who I think should be a first or second line player. But the Senators do have some depth here when he's in the lineup. So we'll see where he fits in this lineup. But the Senators hoping to get a good offensive season and continue to improve from previous years. The defense, Jake Sanderson and Artem Zub on that top pair, Thomas Chabot, Nick Jensen, Tyler Klevin, Jordan Spence on the third pair, and Nicholas Matampalo, an extra defenseman. This is where, I don't want to say questions, but this is a defense where I want to see how they perform. I want to see how they perform in the regular season. I think Jake Sanderson is going to have a good offensive year. He was a player we cashed on last year at times. Thomas Chabot, I think, is good on that second D pair. Younger guys there in that third pair. Obviously, the Sens will be hoping to get some good play from them. So there's questions here for this defense, in my opinion, compared to some other teams in the division. Linus Ullmark, starting goaltender, and Levi Merilainen as the backup. Been a rough preseason so far for Linus Ullmark. He hasn't shied away from admitting it as well. But the preseason is one thing. You want to kind of nip that in the bud and get back to more positive thoughts heading into the regular season. I think the Senators need him to be that guy that he has been for them if they want to have success this season in this Atlantic Division. Levi Merilainen, not a huge sample size for him last year, but played very well when he did play in the net. So we'll see how he does this season. Obviously, the Sens will be hoping to get some good goaltending. They'll need good goaltending to compete in this very tough division. But I think they're going to score some goals. So if you can score some goals and you can get some good goaltending, then you can be a playoff team. Looking at future bets, we've gone through the team so far, and I've given you guys kind of looks for each team. But for the Ottawa Senators, I have none. I don't know. Obviously, there are teams I'm kind of confident in this year and where they're going to finish. Obviously, top teams, bottom teams. But then you've got teams like Ottawa here in the middle where I don't know. I think they could have a good season. They could be a playoff team. But I could also see them being towards near the bottom. They're in a very tough division. So I'm not super confident in how the season is going to go for Ottawa. So they're a team that I'm going to be kind of keeping my eye on. But no future bets that I'm really considering for them at this moment. Make sure to leave in the comment section below if you're a Sens fan watching, or if you're just a hockey fan, a hockey bettor, and you do have some bets that you like for the Senators, let me know. And let the viewers know in the comment section of the video. Moving on along to our next team. Got two more left. The Tampa Bay Lightning. Jake Guentzel, Braden Point, and Nikita Kucherov as the top line. Very high-powered offense top line for the Lightning. Brandon Hagel, who had a fantastic season last year. Anthony Cirelli and Gage Goncalves as the second line. And is a very good offensive line on that second. Because you've got Guentzel, Point, Kucherov, that's where the focus is going to be obviously from the media, but also from teams' defensive, best defensive pairs, defensive lines, which gives the second line an opportunity. And we saw Brandon Hagel score a ton of goals last year, and I think he'll have another good season this year. Oliver Bjorkstrand, Yanni Gord, and Connor Geekie there in that third line. I think that's a very good third line as well. I think you've got some dependable guys there. Bjorkstrand and Gord, young guy in Connor Geekie that you're hoping plays well, takes that next step, can be an offensive guy for you on that third line. Zemgus Girgensons, Pontus Holmberg, Mitchell Chaffee as the fourth line. And then you got Jacob Peltier as well, who's looking to get into the lineup. Nick Paul injured to start the season. Obviously, when you had him into this lineup, it's even stronger offensively. So a guy that will be missed, but this Tampa Bay forward group is dangerous. I think there are goal scorers throughout this lineup. And if you focus all your defensive guys in that top line, that second line is going to make you pay. And that third line, I think, as well, is going to chip in with the offense. So a very good forward group for this Tampa Bay Lightning team. Looking at the defense, obviously, old man Victor Hedman returning once again this year. A dependable Victor Hedman. He's not that old. I'm kidding. J.J. Moser as well. Ryan McDonough and Eric Chernak. And then you've got Emil Lilleberg and Darren Radish as that third pair. And I like the defense here for Tampa Bay. You've got a good mix of veteran guys and a Obviously, a couple younger guys, Chernak kind of in the middle there. So I like it. I like the defensive depth. Obviously, you want to stay healthy. That's very important. But overall, pretty nice defensive group for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And when you look at goaltending, obviously, Andrei Vasilevsky, the starter here, no surprise there. He's been elite throughout his career, very dependable goaltender, gets the majority of the starts, which I expect will be the case here again this year. Jonas Johansson has played well at times. Last year for the Tampa Bay Lightning, 9-6-3 with a 3.13 goals against average the year before, 12-7-5 with a 3.37 goals against average. So 19 games played last year, 26 the year before. Hasn't been a sieve or an auto fade when he's in net. So a dependable backup for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But of course, you're going to want to give Vasilevsky the majority of the starts, unless this Tampa Bay Lightning team is thinking, okay, we don't need to win the division. We need to go into the playoffs healthy and have a rested Andrei Vasilevsky. Maybe they give him some rest this year and go that route. Because to beat the Florida Panthers, you're going to have to do something. Because that's been something that the Lightning, this Lightning team has been unable to do in the playoffs recently, is beat. But nobody has really, the last couple of years, been able to beat them. So two very good teams in Florida, in my opinion. Having said that, looking at future bets, 102.5 is the point total for this Tampa Bay Lightning team. And I'm not saying that they're going to have a horrible season. I don't think that's the case at all. But I could see them finishing around the 99, 98, 100 point range. 103, obviously very close, a couple more wins and you get that over. But I think this number is just a bit too high, especially if they do want a rested Vasilevsky and they do give him some time during the season. They might not hit 103 points. And then you do have some older guys in this team that obviously are hoping can stay consistent, but Father Time does come. And not saying it's necessarily going to happen here with guys like Kucherov and Hedman, but eventually you are going to see them take a step back eventually. I'm not saying that that's going to happen this year, but it will happen eventually. Unless they retire before they start to go down. Braden Point, 80 plus points, minus 105. Point, the last three seasons, 95, 90, and 82 point totals. 80 plus points, minus 105. As long as he stays healthy and plays a full year, I think he gets into the 80-something point range, obviously being on that top line with the guys you have, being on that top power play, very dangerous power play. I think Point, as I said, if he stays healthy, he can get to 80-plus points, minus 105. So not obviously great odds there, but if he stays healthy, something I think he will do this year. Brandon Hagel, 80-plus points, minus 115. Hagel, 35 points, 55 points, and then 90 last year. He had a fantastic season last year. I was looking at his goal prop here, but there was just no value. No value in his goal prop. So 80-plus points, minus 115. Was last year a fluke? Is he going to go back to being around that 50-point range? Or is he going to stay in the 90 or in the 80s? I don't know if he hits 90 again. I think he finishes somewhere in the 80s. I think he has another good season. He's playing with good guys on that second on that second line, and has been a player that's been able to get the job done without having to be on the top power play. He's got the job done. So a very good 5-on-5 player for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that brings us to our final Atlantic Division team. But don't leave yet. I'll be going through my Atlantic team rankings when we're done this, when we're done talking Toronto. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Looking at this top line for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Matthew Knies, Austin Matthews, and Matthias Maccelli coming over from the Utah Mammoth. Of course, with Mitch Marner going off to Vegas. The Leafs will be looking at Maccelli here to not obviously replace Marner, but to kind of fill in here on that top line. Then you've got Bobby McMahon, John Tavares, and William Nylander. Chemistry between those three guys. They played together before. Very solid second line. Dakota Joshua, Nicholas Waugh, and Max Domi. You've got the physicality on that line, but you've also got some offensive talent as well. So a pretty decent line there. And then the fourth line, Steven Lorentz, Scott Lofton, and Nicholas Robertson. So some pretty good players there. And then some other guys, Easton Cowan, Cal Youngcroc, and David Kampf as well. I like the forward group. There's depth. Toronto has depth. Now, they are going to miss Mitch Marner, though. You can't replace him with one player, and you definitely can't put that on the shoulders of Maccelli. You can't be saying to him, you have to replace Mitch Marner's point production, because that's just unfair to ask. However, if he is playing with Matthew Knies and Austin Matthews, he's going to rack up the points. So we'll see if he is the guy that is on that top line. We'll see if Toronto mixes and matches, but they've got depth here to mix and match around. Don't know how much offense they get from the fourth line. I don't know how much offense they get from the third line. I think the third line will be more physicality, a tougher line to play against. So the top six, I think, is where most of the offense is obviously going to come from for this forward group for Toronto. Looking at the defense, Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev, Morgan Riley, Brandon Carlo, Simone Benoit, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Pretty decent for a defensive group. Dependable defensive group overall. Going to want to stay healthy, but if this defensive group stays pretty healthy, I think they're going to play pretty well. I don't think there's a whole lot of questions here with the defensive group. And then we come to the goaltending. Joseph Wall, dealing with a family matter. His return is unknown, so we'll have to see what happens there. So assuming that he isn't available for opening night, you're looking at Anthony Stolarz and Dennis Hildeby. Anthony Stolarz has played very well. Obviously was in Anaheim, went to Florida, was absolutely great with Florida, and was great with Toronto last year. Discussions about his contract. There's obviously discussions going on to see if they can get him re-signed here in Toronto. The media is talking about it. I don't know if maybe more than is actually getting talked about it behind the scenes, but Stolarz has been very dependable when he's healthy. When I look at the goaltending here, though, for the Leafs, I have questions. Here. But really, when you're looking at teams' lineups, as I said with some other teams we've already talked about, goaltending is that fluky thing where it can go up and down. All teams kind of have question marks, unless you've got a guy like Igor Shesterkin we'll talk about, maybe having a down year, but other guys like Vasilevsky, there's guys that you can depend on. There's really no questions about. But then you've got other teams here like Toronto, Stolarz. can be very good. We'll have to see if he can be good enough to help the Leafs win the division, or to see if to help beat the Florida Panthers. Which, for any team in this Atlantic Division, your goal should be figuring out how can we beat the Florida, how can we get past the Florida Panthers? Because with the playoff structure, unless you're a wild card that goes over to the Metro, you're going to have to deal with this Florida Panthers team at some point. Future bets for Toronto. Looking at it, not a whole lot that I love when looking at the future bets for Toronto. And that's because I'm uncertain where they finish in the division. I don't think they win the division, but I don't think they take a huge step back either. So I'm uncertain where exactly they finish. Obviously, point total, uncertain as well. But Matthew Knies, 60 plus points is minus 125, 70 plus points is plus 260. He had 29 goals and 29 assists last year, 58 points in 78 games played. So 2 more points and he hits this 60-point total. 70 plus points, obviously 12 more than he got last year. There's not going to maybe be pressure, but there's probably going to be pressure. Yeah, pressure is the right word. There's going to be some pressure on Knies to contribute. Whoever's on that top line with Matthews, there's going to be pressure on to help contribute for the offense. So I think Matthew Knies can handle the pressure. I think he can live up to it. I think he has a very good season. So if there's a player I'm looking at for the future, for the season future, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it is Matthew Knies. And that brings us to the My Atlantic team rankings. Here, I will rank each team. This is not necessarily how I think the division will finish when it's all said and done, but this is more my power rankings for the teams heading into the season. So, with that being said, we will start at number 8. Number 8, I have the Boston Bruins. And the Bruins, obviously a team that's won the Stanley Cup in 2011 there. They've been a playoff team, but they are a team that is heading towards a rebuild, or at least a retool of some kind. They're in a very tough division here in the Atlantic, and maybe number 7, maybe they compete with number 7, maybe number 7 finishes in last place, but have to pick somebody. And when I look at the teams in this division, for me, it comes down to the Boston Bruins offense. The Bruins are going to win games 2-1. They're going to win games when Jeremy Swayman stands on his head, and when they can get some offense from that top line. Otherwise, there's going to be some rough games for the Boston Bruins, in my opinion. So I've got them ranked at number 8. At number 7 is the Buffalo Sabres. And Buffalo's been consistent. They've been in rebuild mode for years and years and years with no end in sight. People projected Buffalo to take that next step. Obviously, they have a lot of young talent. And when I look at teams in the NHL, when you are a rebuilding team and you're racking up the first-round picks and you're building up a bunch of talent, eventually those teams are going to take that next step. We saw that with Montreal last year. We haven't seen it with Buffalo. And they've been in rebuild mode for 14 years. So if Buffalo had made a bunch of moves to improve this offseason, and I could see some kind of direction with this team, then maybe I could have them higher, but I can't justify them being anywhere higher than number 7. Now is where things get tricky, okay? So the bottom 2 were, I don't want to say easy for me to pick, but now things get a little bit tricky because these next couple teams I could see improving, but I could also see kind of finishing in this murky middle type spot. And first, I'll go with the Detroit Red Wings. I think a lot depends on how John Gibson plays, how these young players overall, if they take that next step. Very tough division. So somebody has to finish 6. I think they could finish at 6, go up to 4. Like I said, this is my power rankings heading into the season. So not necessarily how I think the teams will finish, but obviously this is how I'm ranking the team. So it could definitely finish this way, but I can see Detroit moving up at times. I don't know if they're necessarily going to move down. Obviously, maybe if Buffalo plays really well, maybe they move down. But overall, Detroit, I think, is going to be around that 5-6 spot when it comes to power rankings in this division. Next up is the Ottawa Senators. And like I said earlier, when I broke down the Senators, I don't know what to make of the Senators team. I think number 5, number 6 is a good spot for them here. I think they're better than Boston and Buffalo, but I don't think that they're to the level of the teams above them. But we'll see. We'll see. Right now, they're at number 5. And next up, this is where I'm going to get some slack in the comments, I think. Leafs Nation is going to be upset. I have Toronto at number 4. And no, I'm not saying Toronto is going to take a huge step back because they lost Marner and be this horrible team. I don't think that at all. I do not think that at all. I think they're going to be a playoff team. And just heading into the season, obviously Toronto can end up moving up to number 2, number 1 in my power rankings week to week. But heading into the first week of the season, I have Toronto ranked number 4. And that is because I have Montreal at number 3. And hey, people are going to say, how could you possibly pick Montreal over Toronto? And I really like Montreal's trajectory. I think they're really heading in the right direction. They've got those young players that I think are going to take that next step. They added Noah Dobson in the offseason. Yes, I have maybe a little bit of question marks with the goaltending, but I have more question marks with Toronto's goaltending and more question marks with Toronto in general. I think Toronto could definitely finish above Montreal. And like I said, this isn't necessarily who's going to finish above who, but when I'm looking at the teams, ranking them from number 8 to number 1, heading into the season, I like Montreal a bit better than Toronto. So they are at number 3. At number 2 is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Tampa Bay could move up to number 1. They could move down to number 4, maybe even number 5. Maybe Ottawa surprises. They move up. Power rankings can move around. But right now, I have Tampa Bay at number 2, which does mean at number 1, I have the Florida Panthers, even without Matthew Tkachuk. Right now, looking at at each roster, as we just did, we just looked at every roster. Florida is the best team in this division, in my opinion, heading into the season. Now, it's very possible maybe they do miss Matthew Tkachuk. Maybe they do start off a bit slow. Maybe they're looking towards the playoffs, and maybe they do fall in my power rankings in week 2. And spoiler alert, I'm intending on doing power rankings each week. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to do 32-1, which most people, when they do power rankings, do that. I might keep it in this division structure. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But that is the Atlantic Division preview show. Looking at all 8 teams. This is how I have the 8 teams stacking up against each other heading into the season. Let me know in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed the show. I had a ton of fun going over the Atlantic Division. I can't wait to go over the next 3 divisions. Each show coming out 11 a.m. for the next 3 days. If you become a member to the channel, you can get access to the videos as soon as I put them up. And subscribe for daily sports picks, props from Terry and MLB, slowing down as we head towards the end of the MLB season, but we'll still have baseball shows, NFL free pick videos going over at least a couple games each week, and then picks on net coming back for NHL. So excited. Obviously, that's what people mostly come to the channel for, is to for my hockey betting show. So super excited for that coming up soon. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you guys tomorrow talking about the Metropolitan Division. Thank you guys for watching.